Bring it on.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 7 of the Creepy Cascadia podcast. Not episode 6, as I previously mentioned in the one that we just deleted.
Yeah, I was going to say, why are you bringing it up if you deleted it?
Because I want people to know we're human.
Oh.
We're not just robots. Robots.
Yeah.
I am, as always, Sammy, and I'm here with my foxy co-host, Adam.
Yep.
Say hello, Adam.
Hello, Adam. The AI is bad today.
So before we start, I actually have a little bit of a correction from last week. So thank you to our sister-in-law, Megan, who had sent us a text about the Jacob Wetterling case that we mentioned in the last episode.
Yeah.
Jacob's remains were actually found in 2015, and his abductor, Danny Heinrich, was arrested. I was actually confusing his case with Johnny Gosch, who was a 12-year-old paper boy that was abducted in Iowa, and he has never been found. Jacob was riding his bike with his 2 other friends, and this guy, pulled the gun, let the other 2 go, and took Jacob.
Yeah, see, I feel like that's not how I remember it at all, but, I mean, I'm assuming you've done research because none of that was in the text.
I read the article that Megan had sent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
I did not read the article.
Yeah.
I figured you would. But, yeah, I guess I hadn't heard that it was solved or that they had found remains or anything, so...
Yeah, they found his remains in 2015, and then his abductor was arrested, I believe it was 2016.
Okay.
His DNA was matched, and that's how they found it. They also... I skimmed through the rest of the article, but I believe there was another case that he was connected to for a similar crime. I don't think it was actually... I don't think he murdered the other kid, but I think he, sexually assaulted this other kid. But the statute of limitations had run out. But his DNA was connected with that case as well.
Okay.
So, I'm not going to go into a ton of details on those, obviously, because they're actually both on our list. So, I just wanted to say thank you to Megan for letting us know, because, unfortunately, it's... obviously it's not a happy ending, but when a kid's been gone for that long, it rarely is a happy ending, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were riffing. I mean, it was kind of like we hadn't really done research at that point. It was more we threw it out there, and like I said, until Megan said something, I legitimately thought that had been... that it was still unsolved, so... Yeah,
and when I read the article, I'm like, oh, God, I remember this case. Okay, I know this one. They went to the video store on their bikes. It all came back to me just from hearing it on other podcasts. Yeah. But yeah, Johnny Gosch was the one that I was thinking of, which is also in the Midwest, and he was abducted, like I said, in Iowa, so... Yeah.
Yeah, see, and I had moved out here... by 2015. By 2015, so yeah, so I was a little disconnected. I'm sure it was... decent big news.
Oh, I'm sure.
Back in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, anyways, how's your week going, babe? It's Monday. It wasn't a very relaxing weekend.
Yeah, it wasn't a relaxing weekend. We're getting ready for some house repairs, house remodel stuff. Having people in the house is just
stressful.
Stressful. I had to put the cats downstairs all day today.
They were not happy about it. One of them wasn't happy about it. I don't think Jax cares either way.
I think he cares in that, he's now in a much more...
contained space
his space is halved, right?
There's only so many places he can run away from Winnie down there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that would lead to a little discontent on his part.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it too. Winnie is always where we are. I don't think she likes being, if we're home, she does not like being locked up where she can't be with us. Because if you think about it, whenever we're upstairs, she's upstairs with us. If we go downstairs, she goes downstairs. She's always around us. Even if she's not cuddling up with us, she's always in the same room as us. Yeah. So I think locking her down there, from your text, it sounded like she was pretty miffed.
Yeah, and I really do feel like the only time, she's not in the same room as me is when, we're on different floors. You're upstairs and I'm downstairs.
Yeah.
And then she'll still come downstairs to check on me.
Yeah.
And she might hang out for a little bit, but then she'll leave, go back upstairs. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were off today, and you're going to be off tomorrow.
Yep.
So we're getting AC put in our house. So that's super fun. Because, listen, people, Washington, everybody always talks about how it's rainy and cold. Like, not cold, but, like, cool. It is not very temperate anymore. Like, these past, I swear since we've been together, the summers have been ridiculously hot.
Yeah, I mean, we had the heat dome the one year, which was like, was it like 2 days, 3 days, like over 100? It was crazy bad. Like,
and the past like few summers, we've had several like
over
90 degree days.
Yeah, I think we got over 100 this year too.
I think we did too.
Yeah, like there was at least one day over 100, and like our little window AC unit just could not keep up.
No.
Like, I think the guy said that like the AC is supposed to be able to do like 25 degrees better or something like that.
Well, that's good.
So, at like working at like top efficiency or.
So, when it's 90 degrees outside and 80 degrees in the house, well, we can be able to have it at 60 or 55.
I think 90 minus 25 is 65.
Oh, yeah, I was putting an extra 5. Hey, I work in accounting. It doesn't mean I'm good at math.
It's fine. You could use spreadsheets.
That's right. Yeah.
Just throwing numbers out there, like 90 and whatever.
Maths is hard.
It's like...
No, but if it was 80 in the house, it would be 55. That was right. Because I said 90 outside, 80 inside, which means we would be 60, and then it was 25, so cool. 55.
Yeah.
So I was... Okay, I'm not so stupid.
Yeah, 50. I thought you were going off the...
90. No, 90 outside. Like, literally, if it's 90 outside, it's 80 degrees in our house.
Yeah.
Regardless if we keep the ACs running. Because we have one downstairs and we have upstairs. And it's just unbearable. Like, the downstairs is a little cooler, but when it's that hot outside, when we were hitting those 100 degrees days, it was so hot. It was warm downstairs. Like, uncomfortably warm. Like, we were literally coming home and, like, getting in our underwear and just, like, laying in front of the AC downstairs because it was so hot. You couldn't do anything in the house. Yeah,
it was, like, try to max AC in our one little room.
Yeah, shut the door. Just, like, let it be an icebox in there.
Try as best as we could. Yeah.
Yes. So there's an image for you guys.
Yeah, I was like, I'd steer away from the, like, us in our underwear things, We haven't gotten that creepy Cascadia art yet. Haven't done the commission on that one yet.
We could do like a burlesque photo shoot.
Yeah.
Or a boudoir. That's what I meant. A boudoir Jinx. Photo shoot.
Is that one of our first jinxes? We jinx in real life so much.
All the time. All the time.
Is there any superstition around like jinxes and like people finishing, saying the same thing, finishing each other's sentences?
Finishing each other's sandwiches?
Yeah, no. Not their sandwiches.
That's all Frozen.
I know.
Okay.
Wasn't it The Office? I thought it was The Office.
No, it's Frozen.
Frozen.
Anna and whatever that guy's name is. Not Sven. Or not,
Olaf's the snowman.
Olaf's the snowman. Sven is the reindeer, I think. I don't remember what was it Kristoff? Kristoff is the guy, I think.
Was it supposed to be the bad guy?
It's the bad guy that she like falls in love with, and her sister's like, you don't even know him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about the Northern State Mental Hospital.
That's right.
Yeah. Also referred to as the Northern State Hospital for the Insane or Criminally Insane. That was the terminology they used. That's not something I would ever really say, but that's,
that was the official name of it, was the Criminally Insane?
Mm-hmm.
That definitely makes it sound like it's only people who are, like, convicted of being insane, like, doing terrible crimes.
I was going to say, I don't think you could be convicted of being insane.
No, it's the defense, right? It's like, you did this bad thing, and we find you as, like, we're not going to hold you as liable as we would if you were perfectly good in the head.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to say that you were insane, and we're going to send you to a different place.
Yeah. That's not the case, though. There was everyday people in there.
Right.
Not just, not just the
yeah, then it should definitely offenders. Not be called for the criminally insane. Because, if there's normal...
Yeah, I think it was mostly referred to as the Northern State Mental Hospital or Hospital for the Insane. I did see a few places said criminally insane, but, so I threw it in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Once considered a groundbreaking institution, this now defunct hospital was not immune to the absolutely heinous cures, in quotation marks, of early mental health treatments. Not only are the grounds haunted by the history in those walls, but it also may be haunted by some of its former patients and workers.
Oh, yeah. We're going to go into those techniques that you air quoted or whatever. What did you say? Cures.
Cures for the mental ailments.
Yeah.
Yes, we will be talking about that.
Okay. Because me, like our listeners, probably think of, there's one that we automatically think of.
Let me see if I can guess.
I bet you can guess it.
The lobotomy.
No, it's actually...
electroshock therapy.
Yeah, that would be the one. Mm-hmm. That would be the one.
Lobotomies were big back in the day.
Yeah, I forgot about those. I actually did forget about those because, in my mind, those are, even more gruesome.
That's exactly...
electroshock therapy.
Yeah, so. When I think of a mental hospital, a lobotomy is, what I think of.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about those. So, trigger warning, this episode is going to talk about some mental health issues, not great treatment of mental health issues. So, if that's something that may be triggering to you, please feel free to skip ahead or just skip this episode. Take care of you, especially because we're talking about an episode that has lots of mental health. If this is going to cause any effect on your mental health, just skip it. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of this stuff is very hard to, even researching it. I didn't do a super deep dive, but researching the types of treatments that were used for mental health back in the early 1900s, it's disturbing. So we definitely don't want somebody, if that's something that will bother you, there's no hard feelings that if you need to skip ahead.
Yeah. We only slightly made fun of the people who wouldn't listen to the exorcism issue.
Yeah.
Because there's more than one.
Yep. Demons is everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not everywhere.
Just New York City.
Just real enough that people don't want to talk nor hear nor right.
Speaking of demons being everywhere, there is this guy on TikTok that I came across today, and he was like, I pissed off or disproved the entire witch talk community, because there's a witchcraft TikTok community or whatever.
Okay.
Wiccans, natural witches, pagans, all that kind of stuff, or people that just practice witchcraft. And he's like, I disproved all of them. He's like, so now it's time to disprove demons and the devil. He's like, so for the next 30 days, I'm gonna do all the things they say you shouldn't do and attempt to get possessed to prove that it's not real. And I'm like, motherfucker, you are playing with fire, sir, because
right.
Why take a risk even if you don't believe it? Who wants to get possessed?
Yeah.
Apparently this guy does, because he doesn't believe in it, which, hey, maybe it's all a lot of things, it only exists if you believe it exists, or, you know what I mean? I personally think that stuff exists, so I kind of wanted to follow him just to see his slow mental breakdown, but that's okay. So, yeah, side note.
Side note, yeah.
All the side notes. So, let's start by talking about the history of the hospital, and then we'll talk a little bit about the hauntings. The hospital itself was built between 1909 and 1911, and the state-of-the-art facility opened on May 12th, 1912, in the small town of Sedro-Woolley, Washington, which is located, I believe, in Skagit County.
Okay.
So this new hospital was the result of massive overcrowding in the state's only two other mental hospitals. In 1910, Sedro-Woolley had a population of about just over 2,000. Currently, it's around 12,000, so still a relatively small place.
Yeah.
So, several articles I read mentioned that Western State was considered the good mental hospital, but a good mental hospital in 1912 wouldn't really even be considered humane by today's standards, I don't think.
Yeah, probably not.
No. The hospital itself was set on I've seen the variations of like 700 to 800 acres of land.
It's a big hospital then.
Yeah, several buildings. It wasn't just all the hospital, but there were different businesses, and they were all functional and part of the occupational therapy program that made this hospital seem, or it was touted as like groundbreaking or progressive because they did have this occupational therapy program.
Okay.
There was a dairy, a bakery, a steam mill, lumber plant, quarry. There were it was farming, and they also had housing for workers and patients. You know, obviously they had housing for patients because they lived there.
Yeah. So
this place had tons of options for patients to do various jobs or recreational activities.
Yeah. Definitely sounds like idle hands
are the devil's
at the foreground, right? Yeah. Like, you know, we got to get these people something to do.
Over the years, this establishment grew and grew, with one source estimating the grounds were somewhere around 1,200 acres by the time it was finished. So, obviously, again, this place was massive. There are also a series of underground tunnels that run under the hospital and some of the buildings itself, and these connected the various buildings around the property. People didn't want to get wet. It's Washington, it rains, so they're like, let's build some tunnels.
Yeah. Tunnels they keep you dry. Tunnels gonna be fun.
That's what she said. But the wet tunnels are the best. Hey-o!
That's not where I was going at all.
Well, that's where I went. So while this place was considered to be a fairly progressive hospital, it really was just the lesser of evils. Not good, but not as bad. And these were just the practices in place at the time for curing mental illness. And I want to talk a little bit about the different types of treatments that were used during this hospital's lifespan.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off strong with the transorbital lobotomy. Britannica.com gives the following description of the procedure. A pick-like instrument was forced through the back of the eye sockets to pierce the thin bone that separates the eye sockets from the frontal lobes. The pick's point was then inserted into the frontal lobe and used to sever connections in the brain, presumably between the prefrontal cortex and the thalamus. Super fun.
Yeah, it sounds awful. Like, I don't like anybody touching my eyes or getting near my eyes at all.
You really don't. This would not have been the treatment for you.
Correct.
This was used to destroy the neuronal tracts in the areas of the brain where mental illnesses were thought to come from. So literally they're just like smushing up the brain in there.
Yeah. Just giving them good old brain damage.
Uh-huh.
To fix probably the brain damage.
Yeah. They were also used to treat certain neurological conditions such as epilepsy.
Yeah.
And
epilepsy happens in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you just jack it up. I mean, aren't lobotomies the ones people like gibbering, drooling, like side effects, or like never recover?
Yeah, there were. I mean, I do have some stats here that I'm going to go over.
Okay. I'm a little triggered by some of this stuff too.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's
a lot of this.
It all sounds awful, and it's all done in the name of science. And like you said, at the time, it felt very progressive, but like in today's standards, yeah, it's bloody awful.
So, quick sidetrack. A lot of these things that we're going to talk about were done without anesthesia.
Oh,
yeah. And there are, I saw...
How much of them have the consent of the patients?
Oh, I would say nearly none of them.
Yeah.
We actually do talk about that a little bit. I saw on a website, and I don't remember which one, it's one of my sources, but there were rumors that
sorry. Is it a source if you can't remember what it is?
No, I have different websites listed. I just can't remember which website it was that I saw because I didn't actually put it in our script. It's just something that you reminded me of when it's like...
I'm sorry. It was just the...
Way to call me out.
Somebody somewhere told me this thing. They're my source.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are. You know.
One of the sources in the source notes was a website that gave... I don't know how true this is, but I also don't tend to disbelieve it because...
Okay.
So, mental hospitals at the time, the people there were not treated like human beings, really. They were just kind of treated like test subjects a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And one of the websites stated that there were rumors that patients at Northern State Hospital were actually being experimented on as part of the MK Ultra.
That the CIA
project.
one?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Where they were, like, giving people, like
drugs,
Quaaludes and
LSD.
LSD, thank you. I couldn't think of the name. Without them knowing. Just like employees of the CIA. And they did a lot of terrible things that they have now admitted to. So that was one place I saw. I just thought it was interesting. I didn't really see it in any other place. I would take it with a grain of salt. But I also... I mean, you see all these movies. And again, they're just movies. But, you know, people in mental hospitals get kind of treated like test subjects where they do experiments on. You know? And not in the name of... It's more of like, ooh, what can we do? Like, you know. Yeah. So, terrible. But...
Yeah, you go for full, what is it, Nurse Ratched?
Yeah. Did you know the guy that wrote that book actually worked in a mental hospital?
I did not.
I saw that in my research. So, you know, there's a lot of stigma around old mental hospitals, and a lot of people, administrative people, that are like, no, it wasn't like that, yada, yada, yada. But this guy actually worked in a mental hospital, so I'm going to say he saw some shit when he wrote that book. Back to the lobotomy.
Do we have to? Okay.
Yeah. So this form of treatment, along with regular lobotomies, were touted as the miracle cure for any and all forms of mental ailments.
Boo, miracle cures.
Yeah. While the lobotomies did sometimes help with the symptoms of mental illness, the cost was great. Patients who underwent this treatment would often lose their cognitive abilities, personalities. They could become disabled, and some even experienced severe brain damage as a result. And fatalities were also commonplace with lobotomies. I saw a figure that 5% of the lobotomies resulted in death.
5%?
5%. I feel like it should be more, honestly. But I also feel like there's probably the record keeping associated with that. Maybe it wasn't the best. Like, oh no, it wasn't the lobotomy that killed him. He had a fever.
Yeah, he just suddenly stopped eating and died of starvation.
Yeah,
a month, 2 weeks later. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that figure might not be super accurate. Because it's not like people want to admit that the things that they were doing killed people. Yeah,
right. And also 5% is somehow acceptable too.
Yeah.
1 in 20. Mm-hmm. For those of you who like percentages or
smart.
think that like 5% doesn't sound like that bad. It's 1 in 20.
Yeah.
You know.
You're so smart. It's really sexy. Sorry.
I feel like 5% to 1 in 20 is not that hard of a...
I mean, I would never think that, but okay. So, even at the time, there were a lot of professionals who opposed the use of lobotomies. Although, I did see that they are still used on occasion for people who have exhausted all other treatment options with no success. Yeah. Yeah. I think they're probably more humane. Like, I think they're probably, like, anesthesia'd. What's the... they're put under anesthesia.
Put under, yeah.
Anesthetized. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you can... You're like... You're taking a noun, turning it into a verb, and then you're also past tensing it. Yeah. So, I'm not really sure that works.
Anesthetized. That's it.
Sure.
Yeah. So...
I feel like Roy Kent. Sure. Like, yeah. Now, to be fair... Even in modern day, yeah, if you've got a real bad problem and, like, nothing seems to be helping, I mean, like, you could, like, commit suicide, or you could be like, yeah, give me brain damage and see if that helps, right?
Or, take a chance, because it's like, the quality of my life right now is so terrible.
Yeah.
I don't think anything could make it worse.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, man. It was like... So my buddy Chris is like a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, we came back from... I think it was Honduras. And we had bed bugs. Something was biting me. Like, I don't know if it was like sand fleas or what it was, but oh my god, like my legs like itched and itched and itched, and like it was the worst. And like we had no access to like
cortisone cream or anything like that.
Cortisone cream. What's the like purple or pink goopy stuff? Calamine. Yeah, I had no calamine lotion to put on it. Like it was terrible. Like the flight back was like sitting on a plane for like 3 hours, 4 hours. And like just trying not to itch. Like I straight up told him, I was like, man, I know that this is a temporary pain, but if I thought this was like a permanent thing, like I would go insane. He's like, yeah, that's kind of what happens. He's like, people have things like this, mm-hmm. and your brain's telling you it hurts, like, you know.
Yeah.
And so you make bad decisions because of this
pain that you don't think you're ever gonna get out under. Yeah, so I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm like, if I was like, I would rather like have my leg amputated than like have this itchiness for the rest of your life,
for like the rest of my life. Like, yeah. I was like, sure, I'm probably under distress right now, but I'm like, this is like, it's like I get it. I get why some people make bad decisions.
Mm-hmm. Permanent decision based on a temporary experience.
Yeah, that's a real good way to put it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's sad because, you know, I'm very lucky that I've never been to that point where I have considered that, you know. I know there are people that do, but I've been lucky enough to where no matter what happens, like, it's never been so bleak that would be the answer, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get back to terrible treatments of people.
Yeah. We started with a lobotomy. What's next?
So this one I'd never even heard of. So another treatment that was used was, and it wasn't just, none of these were exclusive to Northern State. These were just procedures used at the time.
Yep.
So it was called insulin coma therapy or insulin shock therapy. Now, this one was primarily used to treat schizophrenia. This treatment was thought to help improve the mental state of a schizophrenic patient by basically overdosing them with insulin to induce a coma or convulsions. So...
Still sounds bad.
Yeah. Long-term use wasn't as successful, and eventually antipsychotics replaced this practice. Okay. When I was reading about this, basically, it was like a doctor had accidentally overdosed somebody that was addicted to some type of narcotic with insulin. Okay. And he noticed that his mood and his state improved after he came out of the coma or convulsion. And so he theorized that people that had mental health issues would also come out better on the other side after enduring this type of treatment.
Okay.
Spoiler alert!
Still seems sus.
Spoiler alert, I don't really, do that.
Yeah. Again, it just sounds like brain damage.
I mean,
so much of this just sounds like brain damage.
Well, and it's also like it's hard on your body because your pancreas is what produces insulin. If you're overwhelming your body constantly with too much of something, that can't be good in the long run.
Right.
You know? And I'm sure nobody knew the long-term effects of all these things when they were doing them. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Adam's go-to, electroshock or electroconvulsive therapy.
It's not my go-to. I think that's
what I meant. Your go-to, your
I would have said that was the number one.
Association with a mental health hospital.
Because it's what I see in the movies and TV shows.
This procedure included electrical currents being administered in the brain to induce a small seizure. Now, this one is also still used today, but the early versions were extremely painful and intense. No anesthesia was used, so patients were fully awake while being shocked. And these patients were also given extremely high doses of electricity, whereas now it's small doses. And these big doses of electricity could cause extreme, convulsions, confusion, and they would result in injuries since the patients weren't sedated and can be a harm to themselves. So they would, start convulsing. They could fall, hurt themselves,
Yeah.
Whereas now they sedate people, so you're not able to move, but you're still getting the benefits. And again, these types of therapies, I think, are used as last resorts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also saw some articles that stated sterilization of people who were being released was also used, as was the practice of the time. They considered it a way to...
Was that like chemical castration type stuff, you mean? Or what do you mean sterilization?
It just says sterilization, so I'm assuming like vasectomies and tubal ligations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, could be drug-induced too, right?
Could be, yeah. There are chemical castrations.
Yeah.
But it says sterilization, so I'm going to go with, like, vasectomies and tubal ligations. But who knows? I mean, it's not off base to say they could have been, like, chemical castration. So those, they did that as a way to protect society. Like, if somebody's mentally ill, obviously they shouldn't be procreating because they're just going to produce more mentally ill people.
Yeah. Clearly it's genetic.
Clearly. Thank God it's not always genetic.
Yeah. No, I was being very sarcastic when I said clearly.
So those are just kind of a few examples of what took place inside the halls of Northern State. So in its heyday, I saw anywhere from 2,500 people called Northern State home, which was basically capacity. While most of the patients who came here were considered nonviolent, I did see there was a small percentage of violent offenders who came through the hospital. I wanted to say, I did see a couple sources state that there's only been one documented murder that happened within the halls of the hospital, and it was like patient-on-patient violence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, other than medicated patients, I mean, I would think there'd be more.
Mm-hmm. I thought that figure was kind of surprising, too, because I definitely thought there would have been more deaths. Now, murders, no. Deaths, yes. There were lots and lots of deaths that happened at the hospital.
Yeah.
So while there were a small percentage of violent offenders who lived in Northern State, they were all housed together with the other patients. And the definition of a mental illness was a very, very, very loose term in the early 1900s. Women who experienced PMS or were menopausal were admitted by their husbands. Anybody who was depressed or defied their husband could be admitted against their will. Alcoholics or people who struggled with substance abuse were often admitted, along with immigrants or those seen as lower class could be admitted against their will when they became a bother. I also saw that children and teenagers who were defiant would also be, teenagers or kids who would now be defined as like ADD or ADHD. They were also admitted to this place with all these other types of patients. Yeah. And a lot of the people were not mentally ill. Like, they didn't have a mental illness. They just were, struggling a little bit in one area or the other. So. Yeah,
it's like, it sounds more like teenagers, menopause. That's all like hormonal. Like, that's like, it's natural, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, you're out of balance. Yeah. Right? Because you're adjusting to the new balance, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. It's really sad because, these people that didn't have any rights, like immigrants, kids, women, they were basically at the mercy of the white men at the time who had rights just because they were white men. Yeah. And it's super frustrating, but don't even get me started on that one.
Patriarchy.
Fuck the patriarchy. Life at this hospital obviously wasn't ideal, but it has been said in many different articles that I read that this was by far the kindest hospital in operation at the time. But again, that's not to say it was kind by any of today's standards. It was just a sign of the times that those who didn't obey must have had something wrong with them and needed to be fixed. And the hospital's approach to healing did include teaching a trade or allowing or forcing patients to work on various operations on the grounds. So they were trying to do a little good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Washington feels fairly progressive as a state. Like, I would think maybe even back 100 years ago, it sounds like they were trying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's, I mean, honestly, at the time, they probably thought they were also doing right by the lobotomies and the electroshock therapy. Like, they wanted to help people. But I also think there are people that get into those positions who are just sadists and are like, you know, let's make them complacent so they don't cause a fuss.
Yeah.
You know, if this lobotomy doesn't do it, the next one will.
Well, it's just like really any position of power, right? Like one person can have a massive effect if they are a terrible person. Like, you know, they can destroy and touch so many lives. It's bad, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. So I wasn't able to find much on the day-to-day at the hospital. I did see, though, that over the years, thousands of people died while in the care of the hospital. I'm assuming a day-to-day was patients would get up, they would have their breakfast, they would then go to their various activities. You know, those who were able to would probably go off to work. Others who maybe weren't able to would go for their ECT or their lobotomy. Sorry.
Right.
That's not funny.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the normal picture of like a mental hospital is like a rec room.
Right, that's what I think of too.
Like some people reading, some people listening to music, some people playing board games or something, right? Like, yeah.
Dominoes, puzzles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, thousands of people died while in the care of the hospital. I didn't get an exact number, but it's just estimated to be like in the thousands. And there are around 1,500 graves in the cemetery that's located on the grounds. Oftentimes, the body of those who passed away in the care of Northern State were unclaimed by next of kin, which is super sad because unfortunately, those who were admitted were often quietly forgotten about by their family and friends. Like, they were an issue, let's just put them away and kind of forget, you know. That's the crazy aunt we don't talk about.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't talk about little Jimmy who needed to be sent away. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, I feel like that attitude or persisted. I think that's the word I want. Persisted for quite a while. Because, I mean, like, I think even, like, my parents' generation, like, when I was at church and younger, right, like, you know, it's like, we don't want to see and hear, you know, it's like teenage pregnancy. It's like, we don't want to see that, you know, so you gotta send them away. They're not welcome here.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is so sad because it feels like these people were put into these institutions without the expectation that maybe they would get better. It was really just get them out of the house, get them to where they're not going to be a harm or a bother, and that's that. Which is so sad because I feel like, you know, there's always options to get better.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like most of the people there, like, were dropped off, and it was like normal, you know, the menopausal, the teenage. I'm thinking of them, right? Like, it's not unwanted at this time.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, it'll probably pass after some other, you know, like, probably not even that long of a time.
Right. Well, and the thing is, too, it's not like they would even, it's like, oh, you're being crazy because I don't like how you're acting right now.
Yeah.
You have to go away.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's
because
not...
I can do that.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's not something that there was even that they were even going through a phase where something was wrong with them. A lot of times I think women just didn't obey their husbands and the husbands got pissed off and they got rid of them so they could get a new wife.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had mentioned, right? So you said there were like 1,500 graves or something like that, right? I mean, you also said, I think you said capacity was like 2,500 or something.
Yeah.
And it was near full for quite a while. So, I mean, depending on how long people needed to get over the natural course of the change,
mm-hmm.
you know, the hormonal change, like, yeah, you'd see quite a bit of turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I fully expect them to... The dude that murdered some people and got put there as, like, a criminally insane, rather than get life or death penalty, get shipped off to there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like, I expect him... I'm going to say him. I expect that person to be there longer and potentially die there, right? Like,
yeah. And I think a lot of times the people that came in to the hospital didn't ever leave. You know? Oftentimes...
So then why haunt it? Why haunt it? Get out. You're free.
So, unfortunately, those were, like I said, those that were admitted were often quietly forgotten about by their friends and families. Several sources I saw said that after the after the hospital closed, over 200 cremated bodies were found in tin cans labeled with only a patient's number and left behind in the hospital. Eventually...
I mean, at that point, what are you even doing? Like...
I mean, really, though,
like,
if their family didn't want to claim them and they had to cremate them, what would they... I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, let me be clear, like, why hold the ashes in a tin can? Like, just spread them.
Yeah.
Just be done with it. Like, I mean...
I think it's just a sign of the times, like, it's just another mentally ill person. They don't really matter.
Right.
You know, was the belief I think that was held for a long time.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense, right? Like, yeah, like, you know, your family spreads your ashes, not just hospital people, you know.
Yeah. Eventually, though, those remains were interred at nearby cemeteries, so they did get proper burials.
Okay. So then I guess I'm wrong.
No. You didn't.
No. I'm saying, like, what's the point? And it sounds like these ashes were actually given proper.
But not even by the families. It was by people that found these and decided, you know, whoever it may have been. It wasn't the families that were coming and claiming these people.
Well, no, I know it's not the families, but I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's at least someone decent.
Somebody thought these people deserved better and gave them a little better.
Yeah.
So the stigma that still exists today around mental health and treatment is pretty mild compared to the beliefs held during this time. And right now, they're not great. Like, there are often times where people don't want to talk about things that are going on with them. They feel like they need to just deal with it or hide whatever it is because there are people, I mean, it's been such a long-held belief that you should just get over it, you know?
Yeah, it's either that or people just want to feel normal. They just want to... They want to feel normal. They want to seem normal. They don't want there to be something that people will talk about them, you know, when they're not there.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that is very natural to feel, but I definitely think a lot of our problems in society stem from, like, the idea that we have to be normal.
Right.
Like, that we're not accepting of those differences in people.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, there's a wide variety of, like, how people can be, and they're perfectly fine.
Honestly, nobody's normal. The normal people are not normal.
Right, yeah.
They're just better at hiding their differences.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's like, exactly the point, is, like...
Right. And, I mean, if you're experiencing some type of, you know, mental health crisis or issue, it's just made all the more worse by the fact that you feel like you can't talk about it or you have to hide it or, you know, you're crazy, which it's not. You're not crazy. You know, there's so many things that just from time to time people need help and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like we are very big proponents of mental health and treating mental health issues and, you know, therapy is a great thing. Counseling is a great thing. Sometimes everybody just needs a little help. Yeah. You know? So.
Yeah. Definitely try to get over some of the stigmatism, right?
For sure. So the hospital eventually closed, and I saw I saw in several places 1973 and 1976. So I'm going to mention both. I'm not sure because a lot of places said one or the other.
Okay.
So not 100% sure.
Maybe like stopped accepting new patients, maybe like decommissioned.
Could be.
Sometimes it takes a while to shut a place down, maybe.
Fair. That's fair. Patients were transferred to surrounding hospitals or just released. I saw some things say that they literally put these patients on buses and just drove them and dropped them off in like downtown Seattle. Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. While the hospital itself was defunded, some of the property is still used as a rehab center and a job corps. But yeah, the governor at the time defunded the cut state funding for the hotel. Fuck, why do I keep saying hotel?
You really do. You keep saying hotel.
So the governor...
I think it reminds me of, it's very Hotel California. You can't,
I'm thinking
you
American...
can't stay here, but you can never leave. What's the lyric for Hotel California?
You can check out, but you can never leave.
I knew you would know it,
That's
too.
right. Of course I would.
Big Eagles fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the governor at the time had defunded the hospital. I think it was due to just the changing understanding of mental health and treatments and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think by the 70s, right? Like, I think of 60s and 70s as probably the real kickoff of that stuff. I don't know why, but again.
Yeah. So, with the amount of, like, just sadness and distress and pain that was pretty much a daily occurrence in the hospital, it's no wonder that the grounds are now reportedly haunted. The property itself just seems eerie, and I think that's just because it's an abandoned mental hospital. You know, horror movies, it's a big piece of, like, horror movies is like an abandoned hospital. Mm-hmm. You know, they're a place where unfortunately people really did get experimented on. There were lots of tragedies that occurred in there due to trying to help somebody. Yeah. Yep. They're just creepy. They're inherently creepy.
Inherently creepy.
I think
it's all the white walls.
I think it is too. And like the abandoned medical equipment and just like gurneys and, you know.
Yeah. The weird prison-like rooms probably. Like the just hallways of room.
Yeah. I think we've just been conditioned to. And it's terrible. Like the things that happen there, it's easy to turn it into a horror movie because it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just need a flashback of somebody being like, getting to see what actually happened in a space.
Yeah, I don't want
Can be quite terrible, right?
I do not want to see that. There's just an air of sadness and melancholy throughout the property, and it doesn't help that a massive cemetery is also housed there. Like I said, there's about 1,500 people that are buried on the grounds. So, obviously, there is a ton of energy that's probably stuck in this hospital, which can result in a haunting.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, as we've talked about before, right? We're thinking it's
spaces
like
hold on to
spaces
energy.
hold on to energy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the bits of people that they were destroying and getting rid of. Mm-hmm. Very, very easy for me to jump onto the train as like, you know, as the basis of the horror story is that those bad bits have stayed in the place, right?
Like a Horcrux.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Voldemort.
Yeah, I mean,
tried to kill Harry, and he turned him into a Horcrux because he put a little of himself into him.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that sounded super dirty. I'm gonna fuck that Harry Potter.
I'm put my Horcrux right in him. I mean, isn't that what he said? It's like,
oh shit!
It's definitely bad.
Yeah, I said he put a little bit of himself into it, and it just sounded super dirty.
Yeah, that is dirty. Just a little bit, just a tip.
Just a tip.
Just gonna put the tip in him. Oh, gross.
Man, if I had a nickel for every time I fell for that one. No, just kidding.
Yeah. No, I think, what do I want to say? Yeah, it's like, I want to say cursed places aren't just for Harry Potter.
No.
It's like, throughout history there have been places, right? Like, you think of land that doesn't grow stuff, you know, considered like blighted land or whatever, right? Like, that's a thing.
I know what that means now.
Right.
Because we played at Spirit Island.
Yeah, because we played a game with it, right?
Yep.
But I mean, like, I think that might even go back to, like, biblical stuff, you know? Like, like God cursing the land, you know? Yeah. That, like, that's totally...
Totally a thing.
Totally a thing, right? That, like, when something doesn't work the way you think it should, it's cursed, you know?
So, yeah, cursed lands. That's the thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, so, like, cursed lands, cursed places...
What about cursed objects? What are your thoughts on that? Before we get into the haunting.
I mean, I guess I feel like I'm less likely to believe objects, whereas places seem like And to be fair, I'm not even really buying in on the places. I'm just saying, like,
you would be more inclined to believe a cursed place as opposed to a cursed object.
Yeah, I'm thinking, right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the same thing, object, right? Like, you know, like the electrocution chairs. I think people think of them as being cursed because of how many people that died and that kind of stuff, right? So, like, it's not far-fetched, but I guess I'm just saying, like, as a skeptic, it's like, those are the more believable, you know. It's like, you tell me a story about a place where a bunch of bad things happen, and I feel it's much more believable that, like, bad things still happen there. You know what I mean? Like that story is much more believable than just...
Like, are you talking, like, massive murders or deaths, or are you talking about just, like, bad things happening in one spot?
I mean, it could be all of that, right? Like, I mean, like, you know, like, I think, I'm trying to remember if we mentioned past episodes about, like, you know, the Holocaust, like Auschwitz, people say they feel bad energy there, you know?
Or just, like the sadness, I feel like the energy would have to be so intense going there. Yeah. So, you know, like, I think the thread we were on was, like, the place, the hospital, like, why do the grounds, or why does that setting seem to be associated with horror stuff. Yeah.
Like, commonly, and, you know, it's...
I think a part of it, too, just goes back to, like, I don't know if it's just me. I think a lot of people have a fear of the doctor.
There's that, too.
You know, I think that probably ties into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this place haunted generally, but are there any specific, like, ghosts or specific people that people still think are there, like, cases? What do you got? Hit me.
Yeah, so there are actually a few. There is one ghost that is said to be that of a little girl who is usually seen playing with a red ball. I haven't seen anybody, like, give her a name. They just refer to her as the girl with a red ball.
Okay.
They say sometimes there's a man who is trying to find her as well. There's also a prankster ghost. I don't think it's the same one with the little girl, but there's a ghost of a man who they have nicknamed Fred, who likes to toss leftover bedpans and sheets around the hospital.
Okay.
So not a malevolent spirit, you know, just more of a hey, I'm here kind of thing.
I find that funny that there's still bedpans and sheets there. I'm sorry. That makes me laugh. Like, you tell me they shut down this place and, like, they just left all this shit there.
The images, they really do. I saw pictures, you know, obviously in my research I saw some pictures, and it's literally like there's gurneys still sitting in these rooms, there's things on the counters. It's literally like they just walked away from this hospital.
Yeah, they just defunded it. We don't want to put any money into, like, cleaning up the place or making the place back to a normal thing. Let's just we fixed the glitch, everyone just leave.
Yeah.
You know?
I did see that some, like, other hospitals went in and took stuff, but not everything got taken.
Yeah.
And so there are the things that nobody wanted just got left there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if those bedpans were dirty and that's why.
I mean, who wants to clean a bedpan?
Nobody.
It's been sitting there for a while.
Nobody. So that's why it's more believable that they're still there.
Yeah.
The ghost is probably like, somebody go clean these fucking bedpans! I'm sick of the smell of shit in here. Just like, so, like...
Clean my shit, bitch! Chucking at somebody.
Yeah. It's like, I try to dump out the bedpan, but it's ghost poop, so it stays in the bedpan no matter how you upside down try to clean it out.
In Casper, they had real poop. Like,
right.
their food just went through them and turned to mush.
Right.
So this one's also creepy.
Okay.
I also saw some articles mention that there are sightings of a nurse hanging from a noose. Which I never saw in any of my research.
Like an actual...
committing suicide, or completing suicide at this establishment. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, we're talking about, like, energy and residuals and emotions. Mm-hmm. What if patients were having thoughts that they wish, like, a nurse would kill herself? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it could be.
Could something like that easily translate, or...
Like... Yeah, I mean...
Like, bad thoughts, like, people being like, I really hate that nurse.
That
like,
energy into an actual, like,
she'd die.
Apparition. It could
and the nurse doesn't, but somehow that energy that we're saying, that bad juju, stays in the space and manifests, right? Like,
that could be. I mean, that's a very astute observation.
You love that word today. Astute.
I know. It's my word of the day, astute.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was wondering. I'm like, this is...
It's not really. It's just fitting.
Like...
I wanted to sound smart.
You are smart, baby.
No, that's actually a very good theory. I hadn't thought of that, but it could be.
Yeah. Also, a suicide by a nurse is something that would probably be covered up. I
was just going to say, just because we don't know about it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that goes to stand for a lot of things that happened at this
hotel?
Fuck!
Yeah, almost did it again.
This hospital.
Hospital. That's it. It's the H word. It's same.
The H one that's getting me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things that happened at the hospital were probably covered up because you don't want the bad press.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Some of that's bad people, and some of that's like people thinking they're still doing good work there and don't want to get shut down, and
exactly.
Sometimes the motives aren't always the worst, but they're
just
still
misguided.
Yeah, misguided. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So other things, typical hauntings. There's reports of people feeling unexplainable cold spots, being touched, and the creepiest thing I found were several reports of disembodied screams, not disembodied voices. Screams.
So, like, only screams.
Just hearing screaming.
Hearing screams.
Seemingly comes from nowhere. Mm-hmm. And...
I was trying to picture that, right?
Could you imagine being, like, in this old, creepy hospital that's decaying, falling... you wouldn't go in there for probably... There could be spiders. So you're like, first off, I'm out. Like, not going to do that.
Yeah.
But this place, I mean, it's creepy, you're probably, you have to imagine, you've never been on a ghost tour, I've been on them, you do get a little amped up,
Yeah.
Your adrenaline starts to go a little bit, even if it's not necessarily a scary thing, but if you're walking through this hospital and all of a sudden you hear a scream out of nowhere, I would first shit my pants, and my fat ass would run as fast as I could to get the hell out of there if I heard a disembodied scream while investigating or walking around this place.
Yeah.
I would shat myself.
Well, that's what I was trying to picture. I was like, how do you encounter disembodied screaming? Like, is it like from far off? Does it only come from like one place? Like, do you open a door and it's like, and you're like, I'm shutting this door, like, I think in the movies, like, that's how it is, right? Uh-huh. Or like, what made me chuckle was like, the science of it, like, disembodied scream, just drive by, getting the Doppler effect on the disembodied scream. But then what was that? And whatever it was moving fast. Like, that was the first thought I had. The first thought I had was not like far off. It was the Doppler. It was the scream, like, somebody running by you, just
run!
Yeah, run, bitch!
Shit.
I don't know why. That was where my line went first. Yes.
Can you imagine though if you're standing there and it sounds like somebody's running by you screaming, but you can't see anybody?
Well, yeah. I mean,
shit, if they're running, I'm fucking running.
Yeah. Somebody in here got the ghost running. I'm out.
If they're fucking scared, I should be deathly afraid.
Right.
Jesus. Oh shit.
Well, they're just trying to get away from the ghost poop.
Ow, it's like us when we go downstairs and the cats have pooped in the litter box. It's like, ah!
Yeah.
What is that? Did Adam just literally take a shit in this litter box? Why does it smell so bad?
Adam?
Because sometimes it smells like human poops.
Oh, okay. I was like, did you just misname our cats? No? Okay. I'm not in there scratching.
It's like a scary movie. Sorry, I went poopy in your litter box. Sorry.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. But yeah.
I would be terrified, like, hearing a scream. Yeah. Or if you're in the tunnels and hear screaming, like, I would be... That, to me, that is the freakiest thing that could happen.
Yeah, this is where the tunnels thing comes back. Mm-hmm. And, like, now you're underground. People are already... get skitterish with, like, claustrophobia, being underground. Like, both of those, I think are... Or like, make the list of things that freak people out, you know.
Mutant cave people coming out into the tunnels.
Mutant cave people, you know, sewers. Who knows what people were flushing back in the 1900s.
That goldfish was gymongous.
Yeah.
A mutant goldfish and a turtle and a rat.
Everybody loves, what's the Pokemon? The Magikarp or whatever?
I don't know. I never got into Pokemon.
Goldfish flopping around.
Oh.
It was like, I'm thinking of there was a cartoon done a little while back when Pokemon Go was a thing, and people were so we made a thing about like the Pokemon trainer like had the carp, just the fish that flopped around, and he's like, I choose you, like Magikarp, and it like comes out. And the other trainer's like, that's your Pokemon sucks, and the trainer picks it up and like smacks him in the face with the fish. And then he does it enough times that it evolves and it becomes like this giant water dragon thing.
Well, that's what they said. That was like an urban legend, right? Like people, if you flush your goldfish down the toilets, it would like turn into a mutant goldfish and get gymongous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how like the alligators in the sewer became a thing. It's like somebody had a pet alligator, flushed it, it survives.
Only in Florida. No, just kidding.
Well, I think that urban legend is from like New York, because people,
I just could see somebody in
took
Florida
stuff from like somebody took an alligator from, because you normally don't see alligators in New York. You do see them Denver crocodiles down in Florida and other southern Gulf type states, but yeah.
So
what else you got?
Well, the grounds are actually pretty popular for amateur ghost hunters and paranormal researchers who often go out to do investigations.
Okay.
Like their own investigations. And the TV show Ghost Hunters, which was actually the show I used to like a lot.
Okay.
Came out to Seattle and did an investigation on the hospital. So Ghost Hunters is the one that's hosted by Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson. Although Grant left for a while, but I think he's actually coming back now. Like they're rebooting it or something. I don't know. I haven't watched for quite a while because I watched it. I used to watch it when I had cable, and then I got rid of my cable for like 10 years and obviously stopped watching it because I didn't have cable anymore.
Yeah.
But I really like that one. Those are the guys that are Roto-Rooters that I was trying to remember a few episodes back. They worked for Roto-Rooter and did like paranormal research on the side, and then they got their own show. And
oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Okay.
So they came out, and like I said, they toured the grounds and the tunnels and set up various recording devices, cameras, to try and get some solid evidence of paranormal activity. While there, some of the team members heard humming that almost sounded like words. So like somebody was singing, singing, humming. You could almost make out the words. And
yeah, it's like somebody's kind of singing a song, but under their breath.
And like humming, you know.
Yeah.
Alternating between humming and singing is what I kind of imagined it as.
Yeah.
And Grant and Jason had picked up thermal cold spots in the tunnels. When the team reviewed their recordings, the audio picked up the humming that the guys had heard. And they couldn't attribute it to anybody or anything natural. And they also caught what appears to be a transparent figure that could not be explained by, another team member or somebody walking in the tunnels or the floors that they were on. So they could have possibly picked up some paranormal evidence.
Okay.
So yeah, but they were unable to blame it on any worldly causes like a heating system, stray passerbys, etc. So what they captured could very well be paranormal.
Okay. So what are their tours of this place? I mean, is it open now?
It's actually open to, I think it's open to the public. Like I said, there is a small rehab center that operates out of one of the buildings along with the Job Corps program. But the rest, it's part, Northern State is part of the National Historical Register.
Okay.
So the grounds itself, you can go and walk around. You just, I think there are some portions of it that are off limits, but some of the stuff you can actually go in and walk around.
Okay.
And investigate. But I don't think they do tours.
Okay. It's not like ghost tours. People are like monetizing, capitalizing on this, right?
Not that I saw, but I'd be curious because I would do that. So, Adam, what do you think?
What do I think?
What do you think about all this?
What do I think about all this? The mental health and poor treatment of people really bothers me.
Oh, yeah.
I'll start there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's one of the things that, like, I don't know. It bothers just, like, I don't know if it's, like, sense of justice or, like, marginalized people, like, the least of these type of, like, I'm not sure. I can't quite put my finger on it, right? But there's something about that just...
The thing to me is, like, yeah. I just don't understand how people can treat other people so cruelly in the name of bettering, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna make you better, or we're gonna advance so other people don't have to go through this, but you're just a...
But you gotta pay the price.
But you have to pay the price that you're not gonna benefit from.
Yeah. Yeah, that lends itself to, like, the cold scientist, right? Like, the person who's like, you're not a person. You're just a subject in their experiment.
Yeah.
And they must remain...
Impartial
/ distant, aloof.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So apart from that, I think I mentioned, right? I mean, from what I've seen of Washington, we, I don't know if this is always true, but we seem fairly progressive. It makes sense that we were trying stuff back in the days, even when it wasn't, like, so much a thing, maybe in other places. It's like, I'm trying to remember, like, like South Dakota, with all the haunted places that, like, that I feel like there are, like, around here. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could point to, like, any one specific one in, like, South Dakota. Like, I mean, maybe I'm just not, like, tied into it.
I think, maybe they say some places in Deadwood are supposed to be haunted.
Yeah, I mean...
Excuse me.
So, yeah, like, Deadwood reminds me of, like, the port towns, right? Back when it was, like, a frontier town. It was, like, gambling.
A frontier.
Frontier. Sorry. Frontier. I don't know if I can not say that without saying frontier.
Why?
So.
What is frontier? Was that, like, the Midwest way of saying it?
How do you say it?
Frontier.
Frontier?
Yeah, frontier.
Frontier.
Frontier?
Frontier. I don't know. I've put an O in there somewhere. I know it's...
It's spelled Frontier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frontier.
It's frontier. Hang on.
I'm sorry, but, like, in my mind, front and tier are both words, and so you can't put the emphasis on the same... You can't put it on both syllables. So I think that's why I'm saying frontier. Are you looking like Google, or are you asking Google to, like, pronounce it?
Yep.
Frontier.
Say it again.
Frontier.
It's like the phonetic spelling is Fruhntier, Teer. Frontier.
Frontier.
Not frontier. I was right. Sorry.
Yeah.
I never get to be right very often, so.
I mean, it's fair.
I gotta take the W.
Yeah.
You gotta take the L.
I'm still gonna say frontier.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that word before.
The final frontier?
It's not. It's the final frontier.
Final frontier.
You said frontier.
Final frontier.
No!
I don't know how not to say it. Like, it's...
I'm just laughing. I've literally never heard you say that word before. Or at least not say it like that.
Okay. I don't know.
Not that it's a bad thing.
I mean,
just think it's funny that I've never heard you say it. Like, I've never noticed that pronunciation.
Well, I've been known to pronunciate poorly.
No.
In the past.
I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying this is factual. Like, you're not making me feel bad. When I was a kid, I for the life of me could not say girl.
Did you say like gwirl?
I would say grill.
Aw, that's so
I would
cute,
say
though.
grill every time I meant to say girl.
Yeah.
It was either that or vice versa, and I couldn't say grill. Like, I would say girl. Yeah, and it was just like the weirdest thing.
I feel like a lot of kids do those like weird pronunciations. You know, like they can't, like they say sketty or instead of spaghetti. Or like my nephew used to say cartoons. He would call them tarcoons.
Tarcoons.
Can I watch some tarcoons, Auntie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, but yeah, I mean, like, I feel like some of that, right? Like, it's like, I don't claim to be dyslexic because, like, I didn't have any trouble reading. But, like, when I talk sometimes, I will say the opposite. I will say south when I mean north. Like, in my head, I'm saying north, and I will say south. Or, like, east-west. Turn left. I want you to turn left. I will say, yeah, turn right here. You know?
Well, I'm just laughing because literally when we drive and you're like, turn left, like, I'll turn right. So you're not the only one.
Yeah, right.
Or I do that too, though. I'll be like, yeah, you got to turn left, but like literally pointing right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like military, you're left. So then you turn right and you're like, your other left, right? Because you obviously have 2 left feet, but...
The thing about the so many unclaimed bodies and the unclaimed remains of the people in tin cans, that's just it's so heartbreaking that the human life could mean so little to some people.
Yeah. Just
because they don't fit into your idea of what they should be.
Yeah.
Like, my aunt always tells me, like, she's told me before, and it has always stuck with me, but, like, expectations ruin relationships, right? So if you're expecting somebody to behave a certain way, and it also applies to this, like, if you're expecting somebody to behave a certain way and they don't do that, and therefore they're useless for you, it's just so awful.
Yeah.
How people can be so so cruel.
Yeah.
Or just uncaring.
Yeah.
And they knew that they were sending him to a place where they were not going to have a good quality of life.
Right.
Right? Like, it's just awful.
Yeah. I think it's, oh man, I had the thought there. I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah, when you mentioned the tin cans, finding the tin cans and stuff, and like, you know, I feel like it goes back to the like gold scientist, and it goes back to probably the system.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this person's already gone. Let's do what we can, and then we're on to the next person. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like so much of those, especially those places when you hear about like overcrowding or you know, that type of stuff, or like being at max capacity, like, you know, it's like those places I don't think those places are supposed to be run at max capacity. Like, you have max capacity is like, this is the highest we can go, or we're willing to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then people hear that and they're like, okay, so like, let's fill it up. You know what I mean?
But yeah, to run at that state constantly is not ideal.
Yeah. So that, like, I'm thinking of the people who work there. You know, you didn't even have to be, you could be a caring person, but you would get worn down by the constant, like, people needing help. Or
you just don't even have the time to care. You literally have to get these people in and out, get their meds on to the next. You know, there's not even time to be a proper nurse or caregiver in these types of situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm going towards, right? Like, it's like, you don't, like, you're almost, it's a consequence of the system that's set up. Like the system is bad, or just, you know, if you're not willing to, like, limit it or super fund it with, like, enough people, enough workers to, like, actually get, like, you know, like, with places like that, you always look at, like, patient to nurse ratio type stuff. Yeah, like, I mean, so things like that. Like, you want, it's just like teachers, right? Like, you want a 1 to 8, 1 to 6. You know, it's kind of like
there's an ideal
it's like
ratio
daycare.
to provide the best type of education for your kids.
Yeah, the idea being, you know, especially with, like, kids and teachers, right? Like, there's the idea that, like, you're already going to have some number of kids that are, like, working on their own, like, you know, working through stuff on their own. Your teacher really only needs to help you for a few of them. Mm-hmm. But that's where, like, a mental hospital, like, all of these people need help. It's like a normal hospital. Like, you're there because, for the most part, like, like, something is wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, as much as we talked about the normalness of, like, teenage, menopause, some of the things and the reasons people were put there. Mm-hmm. But, like, those people still were struggling, or, you know, had something that they needed help through. Or you know, even if it's a normal process.
Or they experienced treatment that then resulted in them needing additional care.
Yeah,
because of the side effects of the treatment that they got to fix them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fix in air quotations.
Yeah, it's like, you just sedate everyone, well, now you have to, like, physically move them all around, right? It's like, you cannot... You almost cannot, like, drug your way out of this problem, or, like, you know.
Well, and I mean, like, staff burnout, and it's a thing even now in the modern healthcare system. Yeah. With COVID, I mean, these hospitals were inundated with an influx of patients that they did not have at the time, they didn't know what they were dealing with. They didn't know how to deal with it. Yeah. They had, so many people got burned out in the healthcare system. Yeah. Because of COVID. And even in just general, I think hospitals, there's just never enough people to run it properly. So the people that do work there are doing the jobs of 2 to 5 people at one time. Yeah. And I'm sure that, I know that's the case at this previously as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we actually, when I was a chapel assistant in the Army, we worked with, so, like, I got trained as a combat lifesaver, because we were often paired with medics, you know, as a way for me to be able to help out. Mm-hmm. And, like, yeah, like, mass casualty is the worst scenario. Like, that is the epitome worst scenario. Like it's like, yep, we're probably going to lose people purely because we don't have the people to help. Save them. Like, we don't have a 1-to-1. It's like, we're going to get more people than we have doctors or medics. And it's like, we're going to do our best. We're going to triage. We're going to
see, you know, who's, it's like, beyond saving, and basically
who's beyond saving, who needs treatment right now, mm-hmm. and who can wait. Right, yeah. Like, it's all about the triage and that type of stuff.
God, I would never be able to. I would not. I'm so bad under pressure when it comes to stuff like that. I feel like if I had to, I would be like, no, we have to save every single one of these people. Right. I don't even care if this guy is missing, like, his head. We still have to try to save it. You know what I mean?
Like, give me a sewing kit.
Yeah, give me the duct tape.
Give me the duct tape and a gurney and a lightning bolt, like Frankenstein. I'm thinking, like, you know.
Electrode.
Yeah, give me some electrodes to stick in this guy's neck.
Like, I could not. People that can do that, I mean, they are saints. People that can do, you know, operate.
Well, that's also what I mean by, like, we train for that scenario because that's the worst case scenario. Like, you know, like, actually being in that scenario, like, yeah, like, the expectation is, like, you're only gonna have to do it, like, one day in a decade. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not the norm. It's not the norm. It's not the expectation for your everyday. Yeah. You know, and so, yeah, like you said, like,
it's still
a hospital staffed. Like, I mean, with COVID, that was part of it, right? Like, we wanted to we didn't want that hospital surge because, like, hospitals can only handle so many people.
Yeah.
And once we were above that mark, we knew that, like...
people were going to die.
That, like, doctors were going to have to make decisions on, like, this person is not worth treating.
Yeah.
You know, and you were just going to see...
they're unlucky enough that they, you know, for whatever reason, they don't get treatment.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, and we saw that even the people who did get treatment, people still died, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's like not even a guarantee.
Yeah.
That if you got treatment, you know what I mean? So, yeah, and it's like, so with that you have, who knows, you know?
Yeah.
There's often like, it's not quite survivor's guilt. Like, I think that's for like the people who are in, like, say the car accident or the, you know what I mean? Like, the worst mass cal was always bus full of kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the one that, like, everyone's like, this will be bus full of kids, car accident. Yeah. Like, you're all about to experience the worst professional day of your life.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, and you know, it's just like other jobs, that's what you train for.
Yeah.
You know? Mainly to try to desensitize yourself so that when it happens, you can function, you know? So.
Well.
Yeah, this is...
we should end on a happier note. But yeah, next week's Thanksgiving. So I'm very excited for that. I'm excited to see some family, get some good food.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but...
food, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite.
I do too, because there's...
I all love food.
Well, and it's...
like, whichever family we're with, we eat real good.
Yeah. But it's also, like, it's such... It's all the benefits of Christmas without any of the stress of, like, gift giving and like that. So it's really... I love...
yeah, it's very social.
Yeah, it's just hanging out with friends and family.
Catching up.
Yeah, it's one of the most laid back holidays. I mean, obviously Halloween's still my favorite, but Thanksgiving is my second favorite holiday.
It's like, let's eat until we're all stuffed, and all we can do is sit on a couch in a room together, and like no one feels like moving, so we might as well talk to each other.
Because we just don't have the energy to run away or kill each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's why the family reunion, you bring booze, so you get drunk, and people tell more stories when they're drunk.
Yeah.
You know?
What? But yeah, so we will be back next week for our next episode. Not quite sure what the topic's going to be, but we will be putting out an episode for next week. So we hope everybody has a great Wednesday and a great rest of their week. And don't forget to thaw your turkeys, depending on when you're listening to this. You got to thaw them early, I hear. So we hope...
like a week out?
I think
this was releasing Wednesday, a week.
Yeah. So it's I think it depends on like the poundage of the turkey when you're supposed to start thawing it. So anyways, but we will be back next week, and we hope everybody has a great week and stay creepy, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.